Hi, welcome to Wildlock 3rd grade worksheet lesson number 6. And to start off, we're going to be subtracting to find the difference. And so looking at number 1, we have 862 minus 501. So we just subtract. So we have 2 minus 1, which gets us 1. 6 minus 0, which gets us 6. And 8 minus 5, which gets us 3. So our answer for number 1 is 361. For number 2, we're doing the same thing, but this time 3 minus 8 is impossible first, so we have to borrow 1 from this 7. This 7 becomes a 6, and this 3 becomes a 13. We have 13 minus 8, which gets us 5. 6 minus 1, which gets us 1. And 5 minus 2, which gets us 3. So our answer for number 2 is 315. For number 6, we have the same thing, but this time we can't do 2 minus 5 again, so we have to borrow 1 from this 9. This 9 becomes an 8. This 2 becomes a 12. 12 minus 7, or 12 minus 5 equals 7. So we have a 7. 8 minus 0 is 0. And 7 minus 4 is 3. So our answer for number 6 is 307. And for our last example on this page, let's look at number 9. Number 9 says we have 2,205 minus 679. And since we know that 5 minus 9 is impossible, we move to the next one. 0 minus 7 also is impossible. Move over to the next one. 2 minus 6 is impossible too. So we have to borrow 1 from this 2 right here. This 2 becomes a 1. And this 2 becomes 12. But since we need to borrow 1 from it again, this becomes an 11. This 0 becomes a 10. But since we need to borrow it again, this becomes a 9. And so this 5 becomes a 15. And we can finally subtract. 15 minus 9 gets us 6. 9 minus 7 gets us 2. 11 minus 6 is 5. And 1 minus 0 is 1. So our answer for number 9 is 1,526. For the second page, we're finding the missing number. And according to PEMDAS, we always do what's inside the parentheses first, before we do whatever's outside, unless there's an exponent. But there are no exponents in the examples, so we're just be doing whatever's inside the parentheses. So for number 1, we have 8 plus 50, which gets us 58, minus 2 gets us 56. So our answer for number 1 is 56. For number 2, we do the same thing. We have 80 minus 20 first, which gets us 60. And we're adding 102. So we add these two together, and we get 162. Moving on to the other side, we have, for number 7, we have 52 times 2 minus 60. And we do what's inside the parentheses first. So we do 52 times 2. And that gets us 104. And then we're going to be subtracting 60 to finish it off. So we have 4 minus 0, which gets us 4. 0 minus 6 is impossible, so we take the bar 1 from here. It becomes a 0, and this becomes 10. And 10 minus 6 equals 4. So our answer for number 7 is 44. And for our last example, we have 402 minus 12 times 2. And so all we have to do is do 402 minus 12 first. Sorry. So we have 2 minus 2 gets us 0. 0 minus 1 is impossible, so we borrow 1 from this. This becomes a 3, this becomes a 10. 10 minus 1 equals 9, and 3 becomes 3. And so, to finish it off, we have to do 390 times 2. So we have 2 minus 0, which gets us 0. 9 minus 2, which gets us 18. So we put a 1 right here, carry the 1 over. And we have 3 times 2, and plus equals 6, plus 1 equals 7. So our answer for number 8 is 780. For this third page, we're going to be using subtraction to find the missing number. And for number 1, we have $6.85 minus blank equals $2.35. And basically, all we have to do is subtract the sum from the added. So we can do 685 minus 235. And we have some simple subtraction from there. We have 5 minus 5 gets us 0. 8 minus 3 gets us 5. Bring down the dot. And we have 6 minus 2 equals 4. So our answer for number 1 is $4.50. For number 2, however, this time we have $9.02 plus blank equals $23.51. And this time, instead of subtracting the sum, we're going to be subtracting the added. So we have $23.51 minus $2 or $9.02. And so 1 minus 2 is impossible. So we're going to have to borrow this 1 from this 5. This 5 becomes a 4. This 1 becomes 11. 11 minus 2 equals 9. 4 minus 0 equals 4. And we bring down the dot. We have 3 minus 9, which is impossible. So we're going to borrow 1 from this 2. And this 2 becomes a 1. This 3 becomes a 13. 13 minus 9 gets us 4, and 1 minus 0 gets us 1. So our answer for number 2 is $14.49. Looking at number 6, we have 825 minus blank equals 239. And just like number 1, we're subtracting the sum. So we have 825 minus 239. 5 minus 9 is impossible, and 2 minus 3 is impossible too. So we're going to have to borrow 1 from this 8, which becomes a 7. This 2 becomes a 12, but it becomes 11 because we need to borrow 1 from it, so it turns this 5 into a 15. Now we can subtract, so we have 15 minus 9 gets us 6, 11 minus 3 gets us 8, and 7 minus 2 gets us 5. So our answer for number 6 is 586. And lastly, we have number 7. We have 135 plus blank equals 691. And just like number 2, we're going to be subtracting the add-in from the sum this time again. So we have 691 minus 135. And so 1 minus 5 is impossible, so we're going to have to borrow 1 from this 9. This 9 becomes an 8, this 1 becomes an 11. 11 minus 5 equals 6, 8 minus 3 equals 5, and 6 minus 1 equals 5. So our answer for number 7 is 556. Moving on to the word problems. For number 1, we have Kenny paddled 2,348 feet in his canoe, and Elliot paddled 6,246 feet in his canoe. How much further did Elliot paddle than Kenny? So what we know is that Elliot paddled 6,246 feet, and Kenny paddled 2,348 feet. And we're trying to find out how much more did Elliot paddle. So all we have to do is to subtract Kenny's from Elliot's. So 6 minus 8 isn't possible, so we'll have to borrow 1 from this 4. This 4 becomes 3, and this 6 becomes a 16. 16 minus 8 equals 8, but now we have 3 minus 4, which is possible. So we move over. 2 minus 3 is impossible, so we move over 1 more. And this 6 over 2 is possible, so we can borrow 1 from this 6. This becomes a 5, this becomes a 12, but we change it to 11 because you need to borrow 1 from this 3, so then this 3 becomes a 13. And now we subtract it once again. We have 13 minus 4 equals 9, 11 minus 3 equals 8, and 5 minus 3 equals 3. So our answer for number 1 is he paddled 3,898 feet more. And lastly, for number 2, the post office was built 7 years before the grocery store was built. The grocery store was built in 1995. How old was the post office in 1989? And so, first off, let me scroll down real quick. Since we know that the grocery store was built in 1995, and we know that the post office was built 7 years before it, we can do 1995 minus 7. And so this 5 minus 7 is impossible, so we borrow 1 from this 9. It becomes an 8, and this becomes a 15. 15 minus 7 equals 8. 8 minus 0 is 8. Bring down the 9, bring down the 1. And so that tells us that the post office was built in 1988. And since it's asking us how old it was in 1989, all we have to do is just do 1989 minus 1988. And we get 1000. And that tells us that the post office was 1 year old in 1989.